All right, welcome back. Today, we're diving into something, well, something pretty wild. It's a 20-minute phone call. Now, what's so special about that? Well, one of the people on the line was in Luxembourg, and the other was calling from the afterlife. I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. If you could actually make that call, what would you even ask? What could you possibly learn? Well, for one woman, this wasn't just some hypothetical question. It was a recorded reality. And the answers she got, they could change how you see, well, pretty much everything.
So let's meet the two people at the center of this. On one end of the line, here on Earth, we've got Maggie Harsch-Fischbach in Luxembourg, and on the other end, her friend Swajan Salter, who is communicating from a place she calls the third level of existence. Let's get into what they talked about.
So, the first question you'd ask, right? The most obvious one is, where exactly are you? Maggie asks her friend about the world she lives in now, and the answer she gets isn't some abstract, cloudy heaven kind of thing. Nope, it's a real place with a name.
Swajan says she lives on a planet called Marduk, and this isn't some vague, ethereal concept. It's a specific location on this third spiritual plane. It's a home base, with its own laws of physics and a very, very different kind of sky.
Yep, 3 suns. Swajan confirms this right there in the call, even mentioning an image that had apparently been transmitted from her side to researchers here on Earth. I mean, can you even imagine looking up and seeing a sky like that?
Okay, so you live on a planet in another dimension, but how do you get around? Maggie asks about space research, and Swajan's answer reveals this just fundamental difference in how their entire reality operates.
They've basically moved beyond our kind of technology. Swajan explains that they don't have a space program like we do because, well, they don't need one. Why would you build a rocket when your own mind is the vehicle?
But that doesn't mean technology is totally gone. She describes this fascinating blend of old and new. There are dirigible blimps, solar-powered cars, and something she calls zelicopters, which sound a lot like our helicopters, but apparently run on completely different physical principles.
And this reality doesn't just reshape space, it totally reshapes time. Swajan mentions her partner, who is the spirit of the famous explorer Sir Richard Burton, takes these incredible trips. To him, they feel like they last for days. But from her perspective, he's only gone for a few minutes. Time is completely relative.
So we know where she lives and we know how she gets around. But what about daily life? I mean, what does a home even mean in a world where space and time are this fluid?
At first, Swajan grounds her description in something familiar. She says her home is about 400 square meters. You know, the size of a large apartment here on Earth. It's spacious, but it sounds pretty normal, until she starts talking about the back door.
And this is where our whole concept of a home just shatters. Her back door isn't limited by physical space. It doesn't just lead to a little yard. It can lead to an infinite garden, a beach at sunset, an ocean. Whatever she wants to experience is just on the other side of the door.
Just think about that freedom for a second. You don't need to book a flight or drive for hours. She just decides where she wants to be, and her environment responds. Her home is a gateway to any reality she wants to visit.
Now this is where the conversation takes a really philosophical turn. After hearing about 3 suns in infinite backyards, it's Maggie, back on Earth, who offers this profound observation about the nature of reality itself.
Maggie suggests that everything, even in our world, the cars, the houses, all of it is ultimately an illusion created by the mind. She's proposing that Swajan's reality isn't fundamentally different from ours, it's just more obviously flexible.
And Swajan's reply is so immediate and so simple. Yes, that is correct. Right there, across the veil of life and death, these two friends agree on a fundamental truth. Consciousness is the architect of everything we perceive as real.
The call ends with a pretty casual comment from Swajan. At the time, it just sounded like a nice figure of speech, but it turned out to be a prediction.
Swajan says this to Maggie and her husband Jules. And, they didn't really think much of it. They were tired, they had a ton of work to do, and they figured she was just wishing them sweet dreams, maybe a little disconnected from the stresses of physical life.
But later that evening, feeling restless, they decide to go for a walk with no destination in mind. They just wander. And by accident, they find themselves in this stunningly beautiful park they've never thought to visit, watching the sunset over a pond. It felt so peaceful, so different, that Swajan's words just suddenly clicked into place.
They hadn't been physically transported, but a thought, a suggestion planted from another reality had guided their accidental steps until their physical world mirrored the feeling of the other nice world Swedgen had mentioned. The bridge between their worlds wasn't some flashy portal, it was a thought.
And that really leaves us with a final, provocative thought. This conversation suggests we live in a reality built from consciousness, where the bridge between worlds isn't a portal, but an idea. So, if a simple thought can echo across dimensions and guide our accidental steps, what messages are we sending out into the universe?